All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Coffee Run. It's John from ProCraps here on Casino Gaming TV. We're going to get after it here. It's a Friday, which means I have no plan. Friday is just your day. So I'm going to give you a little bit of, why is my camera so weird? A little bit of coaching right now. You're going to do this. You're going to, in the chat, you're going to put Q, colon, and then something. If you want to ask a question of me or of my guest, you are free to do so. I have a guest coming in here in just a minute. It's going to be one of our good longtime friends will help me out, and we'll get through your questions and answers. And I've got questions for him too. I've actually been I did a show this morning on Daily Paycheck that was Friday Follies, typical Friday Follies show, just trying something weird out like I do. And I wanted to get his thoughts on it because he's a guy who knows more about what I was trying to do than I do. So I think it's probably good. So let's bring him on in right now. I'm not going to go through the regular stuff, except for one. I do have one announcement. I want to read this actually. It's from Chris from Dice DGen. My glasses got to be on here. Hold on a second. Chris says, what? What does he say here? Where is my Chris? Where'd you put it? Hold on. See, the best laid plans of mice and men. Look at this mess. Where's my freaking Discord? What does Chris say? Oh, he says, hey, it's almost football time. If you're interested in playing in the CGTV Fantasy League, send Chris a DM or an email. And you put this email there. Go to Discord to get Chris. I'm not going to read it out loud, but unless he wants to put it in chat. But yeah, we're going to do it again. It's going to be a paid league, $50 a head, or a free league. So, and I think the paid league is going to have additional ways to make money than just the win at the end of the season. So, Chris, maybe we'll have you on one of these days. We'll talk through it. And Ian's here. Ian is a fantasy football guru, as it were. So run from Ian. Ian'll take your money. So Louis has the first question. My favorite coffee. I have an answer to that. Hold on one second. Let's get our guest on first. Then I'll take that question because I'm sure he's got an answer to the question too. And good morning to Joe from Craps Master.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good to have you on. All right, there's the question. The first question from the before I even talk about my stuff. What's your favorite coffee?
I go to Quick Trip every day before work, and that's the only time I get coffees on my way to work. And I get the Kona Dark, which is no sugar, no nothing, just straight up dark coffee.
Darker the better.
Yeah, strong coffee.
We used to call that jet fuel.
That's pretty much it. Motor oil, sure.
Yeah. So my favorite coffee. So in Seattle, we're all coffee nerds out here, right? So my favorite thing is, and I don't like Starbucks actually. Starbucks I don't think makes a great cup of coffee. But a lot of these pop-up coffee shops, they're like, on every street corner you can pull through and get drive-through coffee. That's a thing here, and some of them have scantily clad baristas. The
Nice.
bikini barista. Check it out, man. Go look up bikini baristas. They're everywhere out here.
You can't do that in Wisconsin. They would freeze.
Oh my God. We went to, it's funny. We knew that they were around, right? But you don't always know which places have them until you're in line. Like you don't know, right? And we were taking my son to a baseball game and he was probably 9. And Kathy pulls up and here she comes. She comes hanging out the window. And I mean, hanging out the window. And Zach was like, from the back seat, like, oh God, that we have to have
Kathy
that conversation.
Kathy with the C said, Zach, put your eyes back in.
Kathy was mortified. Yeah, like, oh God, No, but my favorite brand of coffee, and I think Ian, will back me up on this one, is Cafe d'Arte. They make the beans, right? And the best drive up coffees use Cafe d'Arte as their coffee for the espresso. We just bought in the new house here this really nice DeLonghi espresso machine. I've never had one. I've always had Keurigs. We've been doing Keurig for 20 years, right? And I said to Kathy, when we buy this house, we're buying a coffee. We're buying a real legit coffee maker. So we spent like $800 on this damn thing, right?
Wow.
And it's like you pour the beans in it and you press the button and it goes, it grinds the beans, brews you a perfect cup of espresso or coffee or whatever you want to. And Cafe d'Arte goes in there. That's all that goes in there. It's awesome. That's why I left you for like 5 minutes. I made, oh, by the way, Craps for the Cure cup from last year. That's why it takes so long because it has to do all the things. It's a whole process to make coffee now, but
I was watching. Watching on Netflix right now the 100 Days to the Indy, and on
Mm.
season 2, episode number 1 or 2, one of the drivers is getting in to make his own coffee, and he has in the trailer
Oh.
like a professional coffee maker. And he's like, I don't know how half the shit works. He goes, but I'm gonna learn.
It's it's actually pretty funny. It means I'm a snob. I'm a snob coffee drinker. I'm not really a snob. I don't care. I like motor oil too. But the Cafe d'Arte is so damn good, and it's like it makes a difference. And now we have this awesome machine. I'm like, I'm never going back to regular coffee again. So,
Sure.
all right, here we go. So here's a question. I'm going to run through questions out here, and it'll be some crap stuff and some random stuff. Okay.
Okay.
So Dice Dr. Dan has a YouTuber question for you. He says, is it right for a YouTuber to post a strategy claiming it never loses and makes thousands of dollars per year, but then he posts other stuff?
I know exactly where this is coming from and where this is going, and I know where I'm not going to go. I will say that the angel on my shoulder says that's probably not the best thing to do.
Yep.
Um, and every strategy wins and every strategy loses. It
Yeah.
depends on the day, depends on the role. Like my show, I've had 20 sessions now in a row, and 15 of them are all winners. But the 5 are the losers, and that's where you lose your
Mm-hmm.
bankroll. Today I
Yeah.
was like down like $1,000 almost. Um, but yeah, it's not cool to say this is the best strategy in the world, but then all of a sudden, come out with 20 other ones that says this one's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I 100% agree. It's like, what is the point of your channel? Like, and this gets into like the YouTube, like why do this, right? And like Mark the Point, Ryan, good friend of mine, Jeremy from Color Up, they run other people's strategies. Like, here's the thing I saw. I saw a guy do this at the table. I do a video on it. Or a guy wrote me a letter and said, "We run my strategy," and they both run and try them out. And to their credit, they both use some clickbait titles, right? World's greatest, blah blah blah,
yeah.
whatever. But they also say they don't play these things. I'm just showing it to you. And that's one way of approaching it, right? The person we're talking about, Jimmy, is I'm going to make $1 million a year playing craps, and here's the way you do it. But then he does it 17 different ways. And it's like, okay, if you're a pro craps player and you're doing it for a living, and this is the way you're going to make $1 million a year, you better be doing that thing every single day and show me that it works every single day. And I think that's the genesis of Dan's question here. And, my
I
paycheck
get
show the
that.
same thing.
You look at my show. I have a strategy that I've come up with, and I'm starting to promote it more. But I do it every single day, and there's different levels, and
Mm-hmm.
each level will be played slightly different, but they're all essentially the same. And win or lose, it's there.
Yeah.
But with strategies, I was watching. I forget. I think it was you yesterday. It said about gargoyle. And there's different things you need to worry about, not just the betting. You got to worry about the
Yeah.
dice rolling. You got to worry about when to get off the table. When if you're in profit and loss, when
Yeah.
is it time to make those changes? That's all part of the way of playing craps. It's not just your strategy, or it's not just
Right.
the dice throwing. It's everything.
That's right. Well, I
And the discipline. Discipline's number one, though. Get off
Mhm.
the table when you're up or down.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I put that one placard up every single day on my show. And it's goals, it's strategy, it's bankroll, it's mindset, it's discipline. It's all those things have to work every day. If you're going to do this on the regular, like, I'm not promoting being a professional, right? But if you're going to go all the
Yeah.
time, Dice Dr. Dan lives in Vegas and goes to the casino quite often, right? He's not going there on a weekend trip with $5,000 to burn. He's going there every day with his money, and he's going to try and win a little bit every day, right? If you're going to do that, you got to have all those things in play. Like, you got to know what your bankroll is. What can you withstand as a loss? How often are you going to win?
Mhm.
Dan doesn't care about being there for 3 hours. Dan wants to get out, right? He's got the discipline to walk, right? Not everybody has that. And I think that's a huge, huge part of it. And I think if we're promoting those kind of things, we're doing the right thing. Like my daily paycheck show, I go out there pretty much same strategy every day now. Like, it's either the 2100 salute or it's a Dallas drawdown. They're kind of the same thing, just variations of the same thing. That to me has been the best way to play. I'm playing it every single day because it just
Yeah.
comes down to, can I throw decent enough to make that thing work? If I'm throwing okay, and I mean like 4 rolls,
Mhm.
I'm going to make that paycheck every single day. And it's to me the best way to capitalize on a few rolls and get the hell out. That's the best way for me to
Correct.
play, right? It's not anything complicated. And
Yeah.
yeah, if I was going to do like the John way to make $1 million, I would just run that strategy every day and say that's it. It's a great
Two to
question
three
from
hits
Dan.
and down, 2 to 3 hits and down, and and play out the profits or the break even, I call it. Get
Yeah,
to that break even point and then play from there. So
totally. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at two. I'm looking at 2 hits to exact get out, or 3 hits to
mhm.
excess, and only play excess, so I can walk with
Yeah.
my base profit, and then have some excess fun. That's kind of what it comes down to. All right, here next one from
Mhm.
Dan. This is funny. I'm gonna do a filter here on the letter Q. So if you guys want to do a Q for me, do that. Dan asks, "What's better, fresh from the farm cheese curds or day old?" I'm not sure what's the difference, Joe.
Some squeaks, some don't. um, I'm serious about that. Cheese curds, you test the quality of the cheese. The curd itself is when you bite into it, if it squeaks. So you can actually hear the
Really?
squeak in your teeth in that. Yeah. And a
Seriously?
warm cheese curd is better than a cold cheese curd. It'll squeak more.
Get out of here. I've never ever heard that. That's awesome. A
Yeah.
warm,
You
squeaky
gotta live in
cheese curd.
Wisconsin.
You
Yep.
you
Yep. You
heard
gotta
it
live in Wisconsin.
you heard it here first. The warm, squeaky cheese curd. That's where that was worth the price of admission just to hear you say that out loud. That's awesome.
Hey, when you come up to Wisconsin, hopefully in a couple months, I will get
Yeah,
you some warm, squeaky cheese curds.
that is amazing. Oh my god, that's awesome. All right, Duracell has a loaded question. Is it right for a
Okay.
YouTuber to be an everlasting know-it-all under the guise of educating? Um, Charges people to teach when you got the information free from the community. That's interesting. I know who you're talking about, but
And I,
in
and I
gen,
do as well.
yeah, but in general, that's it. But the question's interesting though, anyway, because it does come into, and again, we can lambast one person on this one, or you can say, in general, the influx of all the YouTubers into the world, you can
Mhm.
see people doing this, right? I'm going to come out here. I'm going to be the educator, the
I'm gonna
know-it-all, the
blast.
whatever,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're charging for it. And there's a lot of people that are switching over from free content to hire me as a coach, or everything's going behind Patreon. Nothing's going to be on YouTube. That's like
Hmm.
they're using the community, not our community, but at the community at large, as a profit center. You know what I mean? And that's
Hmm.
kind of an interesting thing. I mean, what are your thoughts on
I'm
that?
gonna blast my. I'm gonna blast myself on this, okay? Because when I first came into YouTube world, I was making the table and I wanted to share that experience, with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, I thought, okay, what can I do with this? So I started doing the strategies, and my main goal in the beginning was to make money on YouTube. I wanted to retire and
Mm-hmm.
not have to worry about anything. And that is one business model a person can do. I mean, there's a ton of YouTube channels out there, not crafts related, that they use YouTube to promote their businesses on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And they might have 2, 3 thousand subscribers, but they're making 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a year based off of their YouTube stuff. I made a comment this morning on my channel. I make $140 every 2 months on YouTube. So I'm not making it.
Yeah.
So, but
Right.
I have gone from that person wanting to make money on YouTube to the person that's doing this because I enjoy it. It keeps me honest on a daily basis, so I get my practice in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am kind of throwing myself out there. I'm faking it till I make it type person. This dice shooting journey, I've been on it for what, a year and a half now. And some people consider me to be one of the better knowledge people out there. And honestly, I'm just scratching the surface right now. I'm learning
Yeah.
from watching other people like Ed from Roll to Win and George from CY and all that type of stuff. So I know that kind of diverted off of Duracell's
Yeah.
question, but
But it's the thing about the question
I
that's
look at
interesting is, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
I'm call coming in, so
Oh,
I
okay.
just
Okay.
cut that off. Um, you know, I look at it this way: people are entitled to do whatever they want,
Hmm.
and you as a watcher or viewer are entitled to do what you want, as long as we all work together, you know, seamlessly, and we don't start ripping on people and this and that. I don't care what you do, John. If you want to
Hmm.
make money, go for it, buddy.
Yep.
I'm taking one route. Other people are taking different routes, and that's their choice. And you, as a viewer, as a subscriber, that's your choice to watch this or not. That's just my
Totally.
viewpoint on that. On all that.
Yeah. And it's funny. I love the word journey because I'm on the same thing. Right? I started my channel 3 years. I started during COVID, right? And I've been playing craps
hmm
forever. And like I know, I
We
quote
started. We
unquote,
started within 1 month apart from each other,
yeah, very very
both you and
close.
I.
And like I know the game. I've known the game because I played it for my whole life, but I never really quote knew the game, right? So when I
hmm
started the channel, I thought two things. One is it's something to do during COVID, right? It was like, and actually what happened was long story short, my son got me the idea to do it because he said he should start a YouTube channel when we found Jeremy's channel to try and find some high dollar strategies. And he said you should start it, and because I'm a teacher, he's like, yeah, you could just teach it, right? And I'm like, I don't know if I know enough to teach it. He's like, you know the game, like, yeah, but I've never taught the game. But I did this
Yeah.
twofold, right? One is, and I named myself Pro Craps because not a professional, but I thought if you have a name like that as your handle, you have to live up to it. Like you have to like act a certain way and be
Sure.
a certain way. So to me, it was like a little bit of like transparency, a little bit of like, okay, you gotta set the bar, right? And I thought like you did that we're gonna make some money off this thing. I said, what a nice little side
Yeah.
hustle.
Yeah.
I'll build a little
hmm
table. We'll get a few subscribers, and like I'm used to the old internet. Like when I had my websites going back 20 years, I was charging advertisers, $100 1,000 for impressions back in the late
Sure.
90s, early 2000s, right? I'm like, okay, I'm getting thousands of views on the videos. We should be making pretty good money here. And it turns out you make nothing on these videos. You're making $2 a video,
Yeah.
right? Instead of
Yeah.
what I was thinking was hundreds per video. And I'm like, okay, within probably, I would say 5 months, 6 months of getting monetized on YouTube, I went, there's no way this is going to ever be a thing. Like you, had this moment where I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to make money from this. So
Yeah.
that's when I started
Exactly.
doing the live shows. And matter of fact, I went, you know what? Screw it. I'm going live. I'm doing my thing. And again, to keep myself accountable, I went live every single day to like, let's make friends and let's just, who cares about the money anymore? Because there is no money here. Right.
Yeah.
And so I've decided purposely not to try and make money off of other people. Like I'm not trying to charge for
Right.
lessons. I'm not trying to I have memberships, but the memberships go to pay for microphones. It's just like I'm trying to make any money off that, right? And so that's that, right? For me, I just realized that there's no way to do this unless I try to emulate what Dice Coach or what Heavy have done and become like a seminar guy.
Yeah.
And it's just not in my nature to do that. So you learned quick that there's no money in doing
Sure.
this, and then you,
The,
you
the
change it all
reason
around, right?
Yeah, the reason I started going live every day is because it actually took less time out of my weekly schedule to go live
Oh God,
every day than what it was putting out 2 to 3 edited videos each week. I was spending, 20 to 30 hours a week just
yeah,
editing videos to get 2 or 3 out, and they would be like, edit is done, and 5 minutes later I'm posting it because I was late behind schedule. And
mm-hmm.
literally going live every day has taken me less time. It's a lot easier for me to do that than it is to
Yeah.
do these other videos. So,
Yeah, editing
you know,
videos
from
sucks. Editing videos sucks. It's so hard. It takes
mhm.
so long. Lives are so much better. And actually, what I'm doing for like this whole gambling series, like I record the live in the morning, and then I edit it down, just chop off
Sure.
chop off the music and the questions, and that's the video. It's just so much easier to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
more questions here. By the way, Mid Atlantic Craps Jeff says you are in this community for the right reason, which is awesome. Um, Papa
He was
Chops.
obviously talking about you, not me.
Hey, yeah, for sure. Um, Papa Chops, great question. What are the final dimensions of the table you made for Craps for the Cure?
I can tell you what approximately is going to be. It's going to be about 3 feet deep by about 4 feet wide, and the base of the table that I'm throwing onto is going to be 28 inches from the ground. which is what an average table is.
Sure.
But when you flip it, so because it's going to be able to flip upside down, so the craps portion is going to be the base will be 28 inches plus the 11-inch wall, so whatever that is, 39 inches tall. But when you flip it on the other side, the craps are the chessboard is actually going to be 28 inches off the ground.
That's pretty cool.
So,
I can't wait to see it.
yeah,
Can't wait to see it. Yeah, I can't wait to deliver.
I could show.
Actually,
I could bring in the other room really quick with the camera here, and you guys could see it. A
Oh,
little
this is
behind the
fantastic.
scenes thing
Look
here.
at us. This is
Yeah,
great.
don't judge my
We are
nasty ass
100%
dirty
judging you.
room here.
I showed my garage
Yeah.
all those times, right? So yeah,
So
there's the workshop.
there is the table right now, and then I have all the other pieces up against the wall here that are all, and this is all pieces that I cut for this next video that'll hopefully be coming out on Saturday or Sunday. So, but yeah, this is all the bigger my room is that I make the table, and it's only what a
Wow.
10 by 20 room, 15 by 20 room, if that. So
And
pretty small.
That's a pretty short ceiling too.
Yeah, it's probably about 6 foot, 6.5 feet.
Wow.
So it's just a small room in my basement. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's people. We make these rooms of ours look really big, but they're not. Like I'm sitting in a closet right now. You probably don't even know that I'm sitting in a closet that's literally it's wide. It's about 8 feet wide and about 5 feet deep. But I'm sitting in what used to be a closet in this house. I gave up the room has the craps table. Yeah.
My craps table's in a room that's about 17 feet long and about 10 feet wide. So, yeah, barely. I mean, brick walls. I have umbrellas for lights. Yeah. So.
Yeah. My craps table room is, I want to say it's 15 or 14 feet long and about 11 or 13 feet wide. Right. So my table fits exactly in against the walls, but it's wall to wall. So you can't walk past it. So I had to offset it some so I can get around it. I may go to a smaller table at some point, yeah. But it's hey, it's fun. It's fun. All right, Q, looking for some Qs here. Q, call in. There's so many other chats out there. Let's see. No more other questions. I have a question for you actually. So, this morning, again, you are the you're getting better at reading the dice. It's funny because when you first started, you were doing your white belt, yellow belt, all the things, right? And during that, I think some people were watching you, going, okay. He's saying he's an expert and giving bad information.
I was not an expert.
And you're like, I know. You're like, no. I'm learning as I go, and I'm showing you what I'm learning as I go, kind of thing, right? Which I think was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But now you're at the black belt, right? So what I was doing today, now you weren't watching, but you were listening. And last Friday and today are the first times I've ever actually tried this, where I've ever actually tried to say, look, let's take the dice the way I throw them, which is that spinner toss, right? They're stacked and they're spinning and all that. And can I keep the top faces activated? That's all I care about. Like, if I have ones on top, am I seeing ones on the table? Like, are they staying spinning? And if they don't stay spinning, then I'm screwed, right? It's if right. I know where the sevens are and all that kind of stuff. How would you read that? Like, because if you think about your type of toss, right, the par toss, you've got 4 faces that are active in that backspin, right? I'm looking at taking that same thing and flipping it on its end. I only care about 2 faces, so I'm like making it twice as hard on myself. If you think like you would be like dreaming for both dice to double pitch in my world.
Yeah, I question your statement on that, John. And the reason I say that is I was watching a video that Cage actually put out today, and he was talking about the 2V, 3V, and the cross sixes. He was calling a biaxial set or whatever. And he said when he throws the dice, and I have some dice here, he said when he throws the dice, one dice will stay either on top or bottom. And he says it's either going to be the top die or the bottom die. He doesn't know what it is. And he said the other one will flip over. He said almost every single throw. And when he was using the 2V, 3V, and cross sixes as an example. So when you have a 2V, 3V, or the cross sixes, I can do what's called a cousin one and a cousin two set. So, for example, the 3 2 3 6 is a cousin one set, meaning that if the three's on top on one side and two in the front, but if you look at the opposite die, the two will be on the inside of it then. Okay. So on the other die, it's a three on top, six in front. On this die, on the inside will be the six. So that's the cousin one set. The cousin two set, the number that's in the front will be on the outside of the dice. Okay. So you're throwing them this way. Your theory is that they're going to keep on spinning like this. And I know in the past you've explained that when they come down, that bottom one's going to sit and the other one does whatever. Okay. So keeping that in mind now, with the 3V, 2V, and cross sixes, on that cousin one set, if you have an explosion and a single pitch towards you, that's where two of your sevens will show up. Okay. Or if you have an implosion and a single pitch away, that's where your other sevens will show up, and then your double pitches are the last sevens. Okay. So it really doesn't matter if I'm on axis or you're doing that chopper style toss. If you get the same action in the dice, the sevens are going to show up the same way. Okay. If you can keep both of them so the tops stay on top, then obviously that's going to be your best situation. But I know like Cage was saying, throw the hard way set. That's what he's doing, because that way when one dice flips off the axis, you won't get that seven.
No sevens, right?
Okay. Yeah, and that's what he's promoting. Keep that hard way type set, so that way, but again, hard ways are the same whether you're doing it your way or the par style.
It's the same hard way.
Is going to give you a seven. Period. It's the same thing. So the only thing that's different is the energy of the dice are going differently. If my dice go off levelness, they're going to fly different directions, where you're just flying to the wall and come off. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
It does. I'm more thinking about the viability of what I'm doing. So, and that's where because I don't know the sets yet, right? I really don't know sets. I just know that I'm trying to get face control. And let me get my black and whites. Hold on a second. I want to show you something.
Sure.
I don't think you've seen these before. So I have these dice that I practice with, and I did them this morning, my black and whites. So basically I got the sides. Can you see this? The sides are all painted black, and the top and bottom are painted white, right? So I just have white on the top and the bottom, and the sides are all black. So that's it. So
I remember seeing that the other day. Sure.
Yeah. So when I stack them, I'm sorry to get the camera. I stack them. I stack the whites on top, and I throw. Right. So I know that if I see on the result 2 whites, I'm in trouble. If it's a hard way set, because it's a 6 and a 1 or a 6 and a 1, right? If they're both 1s, I'm fine. If they're both 6s, I'm fine. Otherwise, it's going to be a 7. If I see 2 blacks, I'm in real trouble, because there's 4 7s in there, right? It's the 5-2, the 2-5, the 4-3, the 3-4. If they're both black, it's going to be a 7, almost all the time. If I'm here, obviously, right? If I have 1 and 1, never a 7 on the hard way set. That's all I know. Right. And what I did today, I was hopping stuff, like, trying to see if but that's it. Right. So for me, if it's the hard ways, so I throw these dice and I go, okay, like today's a good example. I threw 10 rolls before I started going. Right. And of the 10 rolls, 4 of them were here. 4 of them were that. No 7s on a hard way set. 6 of them were here where they were all 7s. Right, where there was probably going to be a 7, and I'm like, what do I do? Because if I start seeing more than half my dice are here, where I'm probably going to get a 7, what do I do? And I have a set that
what I go to.
I do this. So
switch over to an all 7 set.
I go here. I go to the 4-1, and I stack the 4 on top of the 1, like this, right? And what that ends up looking like, actually, is this. It's a 2V, which I didn't realize. It's a 2V when I stack the 1 on top of the 4. It's hard. I know it's hard to see these, but I do this. I'm like, oh god, that's a 2V set. I do that almost every day. When my hard way set is crappy, I do this because if I'm going to get both dice to not behave, there's only 1 7 in there, and that's what I've decided to try and do.
So
if both die go off axis, I'm like, I'm
when
guessing
you
my way
throw them, your hard way set is considered what?
What do you mean? That's my base set,
When
right?
you
My
throw
base.
that your base set, what is your hardware set? What is it? It's like a four
Um,
two four two, 5 4 5
it's
4.
I don't worry about the sides. Actually, I just, in other words, if I'm going to put fives on top, and again, it doesn't matter which
Okay.
ones they are. To me, if it's fives on
Sure,
top
sure.
or fours on top or six or two, it doesn't matter. It's still a hardware set, right? So, um,
Okay.
it's what I typically do to be fast is whatever comes back to me. So if I roll a dice and here I got a 3 2 5, right? What I'll just do is I'll just make the 3 be the bottom die, and I'll just rotate the other one and just make it threes. Like I don't care what's
Okay.
on. I don't as long as they're the same. I don't care what they are. And this is again how novice I am, right? I just put whatever comes back
Sure,
to me. I
sure.
stick them on top, just to keep it easy, just keep it simple, right?
Hmm.
Um, and because the same thing happens if they both go cattywampus, it's a 7. If one or the other works, it's not a 7, and I can live to fight another day. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. I try not to do ones and
And,
sixes during the roll because I want to keep box numbers kind of in play. So
yeah. And I'm just guessing right now, but instead of like doing the fives up on whatever, do two numbers that equal 7. See if that makes a difference. So that would be
so
similar to like
just
an all
flip it.
seven
Yeah.
set. Yeah, because the all seven set, if you hit a primary hit, it's going to come up as a 7. Anything other than
Mm-hmm.
primary won't be a 7. So that might be an option then. If you're getting
Mm-hmm.
those sevens to show all the time, that means you're
Yep.
going off axis or you're going off of whatever. Go to an all seven set, and that way you don't want a perfect throw. Then the
Right.
non-perfect throw will not be a 7. So just a
Well,
thought.
I've had one perfect throw all week, I think. So that's that's probably
Yeah,
yeah.
try that once and practice
Yeah.
once. And like I said, I'm only guessing right now, but again, I'm learning this as I go, and I've
Yeah.
self-admittedly, I've come quite a distance. I really have, and that's all through the system that I'm working that I set up, and I've gotten, tips from a lot of different people in the community,
Mm,
whether they realize it or not. I learned from them, and I just incorporated it into the program here.
yeah.
So
Well, I think that's a good point. We all learn from each other kind of thing. Like I watch you, I watch
yeah.
Ed, I watch George and get something from everybody.
Mhm.
Like I said, I throw it so differently than most people do that. And I even like the way that Cage throws it and I throw it completely different ways. Right. I
Sure.
grab the same, right? But I throw it so many different ways. And it's just a different throw, right? And the way that Gargoyle taught me
Do
to
you
throw it has changed.
do you cross your fingers though?
No, I don't cry. I snap. I snap. I do. I
I
literally,
know.
you probably every day I grab, it's my middle finger. So basically what Gargoyle told me was funny because I used to throw it like this. This is a pretty funny story, actually. I used to throw first finger on the corners, right? Grab the corners,
Okay.
first finger,
Yeah.
and I would spread my fingers out, right? Like it would look like this on the table. It would look like this. Let me get back here. I would have all the fingers
Sure.
touching, but the first finger on the dice, right? And he said, no, he said, use your middle finger on the dice. You'll have more control and put your first finger on the flat side, right? And he said, basically, you're going to flip off the back wall. He said, give the back wall the finger and point your middle finger at the exact diamond you want to hit. He says, and give that diamond the middle finger. And if it works, leave it there and just leave it sitting down and just say, got you. Like that was his thing. And I'm like, that's pretty funny, actually.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's funny, like the stupid little like whatever that gets in your head. I'll never forget him saying that. Yeah, he said, flip the back wall off, leave your middle finger out, give it the downwards fuck you, and if you do the good throw, it'll hit right where you're pointing at it. I'm like, that is awesome, And he's like, and his other thing was
Yeah.
because I have a tendency to release the dice. This is so whatever tactical, but I release the dice instead of straight. Sometimes I'm off, right? And if you look at that, if they're off that little tiny bit, then the corner hits and it's a disaster, right? You got to get them
Sure.
flat. And when they're flat, I get that thing where the one gets pinned, right? And he's like, you got to have that middle finger pointing straight down at the table. Like you're trying to drill your finger into the table was what he said to me. That's how I keep my hand straight. On the par toss, there's no mnemonic for that. There's no like when you throw them, like you might have your thumb pointing at the back wall or something to keep your release straight. But for me, it's nice and easy now. I remember like flip off the diamond I want and drill my middle finger into the table. And that's how I remember to keep my hand straight. And it's changed everything, actually. For my toss being it's more accurate, it's more reliable. I still suck, but it's like I'm getting like 1 out of every 10 throws, I would say good throw. The rest of the 10 I think are garbage. which means at some point I'll get 2 out of 10 that I would say good throw on, right? As far as consistency goes, because it's hard, right? We talked about this before, you and me. It's like, and I think we got into a fight one time, and I probably owe you an apology for this, um, where I
Nah.
was saying like this whole idea of changing the dice set during the throw. Like, oh, I'm seeing this, I better change my set. And Ed's in the audience. Actually, thank Ed. If you have a chance to hear this and respond, please do. I'm going to ask a very important question here of Joe, um, which is this: if your throw right now does a thing, I landed on the C and come, and it bounces once
Okay.
into the wall and right, good. And I go, oh, that was a whatever. It was a 6-5 yo, and I wanted a box number. I better
Mhm.
change my set. Okay, cool. If that next throw doesn't land on the C and come and bounce one and hit the exact same diamond, then whatever you did in the set doesn't matter because your throw wasn't the exact same as it was the last time. And I've always had this in my head like, okay, people are always saying, change your set if your throw's not working. But I'm like, if your throw's not the exact same, what difference does the set make? And maybe you can answer that. And again, if Ed can answer that too,
Um,
I would like to have that answer because I don't understand it. Like, I'm not trying to challenge the theory. I just don't
yeah, yeah.
understand how a set can make a difference if your throw is not consistently the same. Where my throw is always the same except for the landing spot, right? So that's my question. Can you help me out there?
Sure. One of the things that I've learned along my journey is that working on mechanics is very super, super important. And mechanics means the amount of energy that you're using to throw the dice, the way the dice are landing, how they're going into the back wall, how close they are, how far away they are, all those different things. You can have slightly different landing zones and still get the same action on the dice depending on how much energy you actually put into the dice. And they can still get similar results, even if that landing zone is slightly different or the energy level is slightly different, as long as the action of the dice is the same, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
Now, what I find is that when you are dialed in and you have similar results in the way your dice reacts, you're going to start seeing the dice doing similar things. Like for example, when I'm on, I normally have one dice off axis, and I know this, so I will
Mm-hmm.
adjust my sets according to what works best for me. Okay, but now if I'm starting to double pitch a lot of things, I know that the hardware set is a no. I'm not going to go there today you know, or if I'm doing one dice off axis, that hardware set is probably giving me my best thing. Or if I'm hitting a lot of primary numbers, I will not touch the L7 set. So watching to see what the majority of your throws are doing will help you determine what sets you'll be using. Okay. Now, when you and I had that conversation, which I don't even remember, but the
Long,
conversation
long
you
time.
said we had,
Yeah.
and you said it was a disagreement, which I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that at that time, I was still on my kick that, adjusting the dice every 2 or 3 throws, you can get a better result. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I am not quite on that part anymore. Okay. For example, right now on the black belt, we are strictly staying with the 2V, 3V, and cross sixes. So I have to figure out a way to get better results by using one of those three dice sets. And if you know anything about dice throwing, the 2V, the 3V, and the cross sixes all react the same. The seven shows up the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So the only options I have now are switching between the cousin one and the cousin two set, which if you follow my program, you know what that is, or changing my mechanics. And again, mechanics, comes down to the landing zone, the energy, the way you're holding the dice, where you're releasing them,
Yep.
all those things, all play a part. Um, so to answer your question, the dice set does matter, but only if you are doing what looks like a consistent or a normal throw.
Right. I think that's
If
what I
the
was always
dice
getting at. Yeah.
land, yeah, and if the dice land just a little bit off, you can see a difference in the way the dice react. And
Mm-hmm.
when I'm on a show all the time, I'm always saying that's short, that's long. The dice didn't land flat. They landed too tight together and they split apart. All these little differences you can't really analyze to change your dice set. When I came up with the program, I have four different things I'm looking for. First thing I'm looking at is, was my mechanics good? Is it a good throw? Okay. The second thing I'm looking at is it a warning sign? I showed you all the different ways. I told you all the different ways that the seven could show on the three V dice set family. And then the third thing I'm looking for is say I'm using a three V dice set. Is there a 3 or 4 on top of one of the dice? That's what my goal
Mm,
is. And then my last question I ask myself is it repeatable? So is this a
mhm.
throw that I can do again and repeat
Right.
it? And if I can't answer all 4 questions, then that's a garbage throw. I really can't do
Yeah.
nothing with it. Chalk it up and throw again and see if we can get it. Something we can answer all 4 questions. So
Yeah. And it's funny.
I don't
That's
know.
why I
Does that
use
answer your question or?
it does. It does. That's why I like my black and white dice, because honestly, this tells me all this is telling me is what faces for me, for top and bottom faces, what am I doing? Ed says, by the way, if the mechanics are not the same, changing doesn't matter at all, assuming you have consistent mechanics and you know how to change the sets, leaving the faces in the same place, which is
Which
interesting.
is essentially what
And
I just got
yeah,
them saying.
yeah,
Sure, sure.
yep, yep. And I don't know how
I'm
that.
gonna play dev.
I'm not into that place yet where I get all that.
Yeah,
I'm just trying honestly
yeah.
to get them to land in the same. I'm still a year into this thing. Can I make these damn things land in the same spot with the same speed?
Okay.
Like, it's so
I'm gonna
hard
play
to do
devil's
that, you know?
advocate.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate theory now, John, with your dice and your tape on there.
Go for it.
That may skew some of your results because of the unequal weight on certain sides
Oh,
of your dice.
it's not tape now. I've got new dice. This is nail polish.
Okay, and that's
So it's
still a
actually,
different weight, though.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
it's
how
different weight.
how
Yeah, for
real
sure.
is that? I don't know. Yeah, how real
Yeah,
that
I
is,
don't.
I don't know how that would affect it
Yeah.
at all. But that's just the devil's advocate type thing.
Oh, sure.
And the reason I bring it up is because we have Victor coming in our chats a lot, and he's doing
Hmm.
some experiments now with the weight of dice. And
I
every
know.
time he
Yeah.
comes into my show, he says, use the heavier dice, use the heavier dice. And my pushback to him is, why would I use heavier dice when I'm going to go to a casino and use
That
this
has.
weight of dice?
Yeah.
Why would I train myself to throw with something different than what I'm going to be doing in real life?
Mhm.
I mean, I could definitely use heavier dice and get better results, maybe, according to him. But why would I train myself? Because if I go to the casino now,
Yeah.
I have to retrain myself back to the
Yeah.
normal
Use
weights,
what we can use in real
So,
life for sure.
yeah,
I got a great
yeah.
question here from somebody else on this same topic. So this is from Thomas Bentley. He's asking me, even if I control the bottom die, right?
Mhm,
The top is random. It's still 1 out of 6. Like, that's the thing, right? The seven's a bitch because it doesn't matter what number I stick it on, right? If I'm stacking the fives, right, and the five
mhm,
sticks on the bottom, this one here still has 1 out of 6. There's no way I can never get a 7, right? The trick is if I control the energy enough that when the bottom die does happen to stay put, if the top die hits the wall and only comes off once or twice, right? That's where that's where you hide the 7. It's like not giving. And when I do my slow motion analyses of these things, I'm looking at when the second die comes off the wall, how many faces have shown. Like, if it's on its tilt and every face is visible, then it's a random shot,
mhm,
right? If it comes off the back wall and it only hits the back wall and it goes tink, one roll, which I've done sometimes, one little like kickback and that's it. Only one face was possible. Now that could have been the one that makes the 7, right? But you're trying to eliminate
mhm.
all 6 faces from being engaged, and that's the only hope that I got. The best hope for me,
Sure.
honestly, is that both die stay up, right? When I throw that stacked 4-1, a lot of times I get a 4-1-5 where both die just kind of seem to work out, and that's great. If I can get that to work every single time, I'd be super happy, right? Um,
Mhm,
this is a, you know, it's a 99% chance I can't do it kind of a thing, right? But it's like, to me,
sure.
I can't turn my freaking brain off. That's why I'm a computer programmer. Like, I think in computer programming all the time because my brain needs something to do all the time, right? And this is the same
Mhm,
thing. Like, it's like I need something to do. I need to think that there's a way to solve this problem, even if it can't be solved. I love that part of it, and that's why I like your show, because you're on the same journey. It's like, let me just try and solve the problem, and if I can't solve it, I can't solve it. But you know what? I had a year or 2 or 3 of good times trying it, and I didn't go out there with I lost $20,000 today. By the way, you probably didn't see my show. I lost $20,000 of fake money today. I don't do that in real life, right? I'm not out there with real money trying to hop my way to glory and burn 20 grand, right? By dice setting. Like that's not what I'm doing. It's to me, it's like this. It's a great focus thing. I'm looking for some more questions here. I think somebody else had a question too. Let me see here. Oh wow, look at all the questions that came up. Let's see. This is from K Fisher Protege. Is that what it is? He says when you go to a table, when you go to a table, it just opens with the brand new dice, sharp as chisels, right? Do you change your mindset on that, or than you do with dice that are more worked in?
I can honestly say I'm not exactly sure because I'll tell you what, the casino my home casino, I don't think they change the dice all the time. So I'm used to playing with rounded edge dice. Um, but I have played with sharp dice on my own table, and I find that I actually like them better when they're brand new dice, because they seem to be more predictable in how they react when they hit the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And
I could see that.
some people say, and I know Fredo talks about, he prefers the new dice as well. I know that they do cut into the table surface a little bit easier, so you have a sharper reaction, when they come off the table.
Yeah.
Um, but I honestly don't have an answer for that because, like I said, I've
Yeah.
not played other than on my own table a lot of places that have brand new dice right away.
I wish I
I
wish I
don't.
was good enough to have an answer for this one. I like them chewed up, frankly, because for me, the chopper toss that I throw it's designed to like skip like a frisbee. Like they spin
Yeah.
and it's like remember I always say like when you're a kid, you throw your frisbee off the ground, you kind of skipped it up to your friend. That's this toss,
Hmm.
right? If they're sharp, you don't get that skip. You get a catch, right? I want them to keep spinning after they hit the. I want that smooth edge so I can get that nice straight kick into the wall. I'd rather have that. If I don't
Sure.
have that, then my brain says avoid the surface. Like in that case, I'm going as deep as I can. I'm going softer throw
Mhm.
as deep to the wall as I can to give the felt less chance to interact with them. That's my guess, but I don't know. I'm 100% rookie here, right?
I would actually do the opposite, John. I would try to land them flatter if I were you then, because what'll happen is that bottom will land flat, and then the top one will hopefully spin off of that, and you want that corner
Mm.
to catch, so you have randomness on the top die. Then, so that
Hmm.
way you pin your bottom one, and then the top one will randomize them.
That's
That's just
interesting.
a thought.
Yeah, I've never really thought to practice that. Like I said, at this point in my life, I can't get the dice to land in the same spot on the table 2 times in a row. I'm trying really hard to get there, but it's very difficult to do just the basics, right? So I'm before I get into the
Yeah,
advanced stuff, I'm still trying to really pin the basics out. Dan is
that's.
asking this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Dan wants to know about the shot put toss. What's that? Is that a real thing?
I have no clue.
I mean,
It's my son. No, my son in high school or junior high was number one in the state in shot put. Does that
really,
count?
that's funny.
Yeah.
No, I've done a toss where you kind of hold the dice like this and you sort of backhand them. It's almost like a shot put
Okay.
toss, right? Um, but I had no opinion either way on that.
Is this where we throw Jen on the table? We throw it
Yeah,
through
I
the
think that.
air.
Yeah, yeah. She just holds them in, and she lands and just lets him go when she hits the table. Right. That's it. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm looking for other. And no, there's kind of a small crowd today. No other questions that I can see out here. Chat was going crazy there for a hot second. Um, let's see what else we have. I'm just going through the chat to make sure nothing else I'm missing. Um, let's see. PG the shooter says, "Hey Joe, the casino dice are the heavier, harder dice. That's why they bounce on a hard table. Not every casino though, right? Some of them. I think Alfredo has said one time that I think the Orleans changes the dice during the day. Like in the mornings, it's the heavy dice. In the afternoon, it's the light dice or something like that. Which I find that hard to
Well,
believe. But I
there's two
mean,
different.
whatever. That just seems really weird, right? That they would
Yeah.
do that. But
I've never been at a casino that has changed the size of the dice, but I do know that there are casinos that do that. And it's not so much the weight of the dice, it's the size of the dice that that they're doing. It's just slightly bigger, slightly smaller. Whether that weighs more or not, probably does. But um, they say that some of the casinos also mid-roll, if you're having a really good, roll in that, they'll change the mode as well. Again, I've never experienced that, but I
I've
have
never
heard
seen it.
stories about that.
Yeah, I've only seen them switch dice out with a real full shift change. Like after an 8-hour session, they'll bring a whole new crew in. They'll bring it all in. They'll just unpack a new set. And I've only ever seen that a couple of times.
Sure. Sure.
Yep. See, Dan says dice flat on the table, gripped on the ends, launch with no spin. Try to get close to the wall. I'm trying to do that too. As close as I can.
So that's like a knuckleball, or like Jacob, I think does that from Wager Me This, I'm finding that the longer I throw, or the more I practice, the less revolutions my dice are doing. So it's becoming more of that knuckleball type style. They do still revolve backwards, but it's not quite as much as it used to be. So.
I got a question for you.
Shot put or knuckleball.
On that note, I have a question. I've always, and I never asked anybody else this question before. I've read this is for par toss, right? For the par style toss. The perfect number of revolutions backwards. 1, 2, right? I've seen people, and I've done this too.
I've heard
spin the crap out of them. Like, what's the ideal? What are you trying to do?
I've heard people try, and these are like in different chat groups and that. I've heard people say it has to go like 3 or 4 times around or whatever, which is complete bullshit. The real answer is it depends on the surface of the table. The harder the surface of the table, the less spin or less energy you actually need to stick the dice and have them go forward. The bouncier or the softer the table is, you want to have a little more of a faster revolution, so that way it takes some of that energy of the dice, so they don't bounce and react as hard when they come off the table. So that's kind of what the answer should be. Everybody's different. Everybody has different mechanics. You have a hard time throwing the par toss because of your shoulder. So. Let's say you have a fully functioning shoulder, but your tricep limits your throw. I mean, everybody's different, so the revolutions are going to change, depending on your comfort level, depending on your mechanics, depending on the table surface, depending on how many chips are on the table. Again, the more you practice, the more you're going to know what your dice do, and the more you're going to need, do I need a little more energy in the dice? Do I need a little bit less? Is the amount of energy that I'm doing, is that throwing the dice off the back wall and getting more random results? So revolutions, again, I've heard 3, 4 times, but I think that's hogwash. I really do.
Okay. A quick question: agree or disagree with this? This is going to be about dice control again, right? Is it real? Agree or disagree? Take a hard look. Here you go. Right. Got to ask.
Dice control is not real.
Dice influence, real or not real?
Dice influence is real.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, if you're trying to make money, what's more important, throwing the dice well or betting smart?
On a scale of 1 to 10, what?
Wait for me. Throwing the dice versus betting smart. What out of 10? Where's your focus?
My focus is probably 60-70% on betting and knowing when to get off the table. And the rest is on dice throwing, because I obviously don't get the opportunity to throw that often. And even when I do throw, I don't always throw the best. So, one of the things I am fine. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that would be interesting. So you're saying out of 10, you're giving the dice throwing part a 3, right? Sure. 3 out of your 10, right? 30% of your effort, whatever is, or your success at a table is based on what you're doing, throwing the dice. More about betting mindset, blah, 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 right? But you probably spend 80% of your time working the throw, which is
on
right?
on camera, yeah, on
Yeah,
camera, you're right. But
yeah,
you don't take into account all the dreams that I have when I'm sleeping about how I'm betting. All
yeah,
the
right.
when I'm at
Yeah,
work, I'm thinking through the different ways that I can do the betting or the plans that I'm trying to put together. Um, you know, when my family's hollering at me to say, "Shut up, Joe! Stop talking about craps." That's you know, none of that's about dice throwing. It's all about betting.
right.
It's all about
Yeah,
how to play smart, how to be disciplined. So,
that's true. And I'm with you, man. I spend probably 90% of my time thinking about betting, thinking about
mhm,
like what's the best way to get off of this table quick. What's the best way? And that's why I like my morning show. It's all I don't. The throws are what get me through it, but it's like it's all about the betting for me. And like to me, the throwing,
yeah,
I think I'll quote my good friend Gargoyle on this one, which is the DI quote unquote mindset, which is all the focusing, right? It's like doing the practice, get your brain right. You know what I mean? You could just walk up to the table and say, screw it, 640 across, huck and chuck, 3 hits, and I'm going home. And just enjoy the game
sure.
that way. Not put any thought into any of it. No thought into the dice, no thought into your bets, just blast 3 hits, bye-bye, right? Which is
Mhm.
fine. It's a fine way to enjoy yourself, have fun, right? But if you're thinking about it, then I think that we all spend, I think, way more time betting. Way more time thinking about the betting,
Mhm.
the bet sizing, how much bankroll am I willing to put out there, that kind of thing. I think it's important that people
Mhm.
really like. I think there's this misconception about people like you and me and Ed to some degree and George. Like we spend so much time throwing the dice, right? And it's all about DI, 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 DI. But it's really not. To me, I think that is an enhancement of it. Like if I have this great way of like managing my money and like here's my plan, DI just hopefully makes it work more often than not. That's really to me what it comes down to. I'm praying that I can make it work more often than not. That's it. If I can get
Yeah.
from 75% win to 82% win because I threw the dice in a certain way, I'm so happy with that. Right?
Think about it in these terms like redundancy, okay? When I used to do martial arts, part of my martial arts was learning how to do different pressure points. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you press on a person's arm in a certain way, you should hopefully see a certain reaction from that person, whether it be
Yeah.
flinching one way or the other, but that doesn't always work on every single person. Okay. So the technique that you do along with that pressure point should hopefully get a similar reaction.
Yeah.
So when you put the two of them together, you're going to have a magnified result. It's the same thing with betting and dice throwing. You can get good at one, but just because that one is good doesn't mean it's always going to work. But if you can put the
Yeah.
two of them together, hopefully
It's a
you're going to
good
be able to magnify those results.
that's a good analogy. Have you seen those videos? But there's a series of shorts that for some reason, maybe because my son sent me one, but they're in my feed all the time now. It's this martial arts teacher, and it's like a 15-second video of him just destroying people. Like, and they have all the pads on, and he's like, "What happens when somebody does this?" And he goes, "Pop, pop, 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 pop," bam, and the guy's like on his ass. Like it's the most
Yeah.
amazing
I,
videos. Have you ever seen those?
I studied martial arts for almost 10 years, John, and I've seen some of
Oh
these
my god.
guys, and what a lot of them are doing are dojo martial arts. In other words, some of that will not work on the streets, and the stuff that I learned how to
Yeah.
do was street worthy. So
Okay.
some of it will.
That's
So,
great. That's great.
so
Street worthy.
yeah,
I
or
love it.
half of it will, half of it won't. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
joke. I laugh at a lot of those. I do.
It's but
So
I replay those shorts 100 times. Like that guy just got blown up. Like I've never seen a guy move so fast. Like here comes the punch, and he's like,
yeah.
but then and he's like doing this and taking his legs out. Like how the hell is he doing that? I don't know. I just nerd out in crap like that.
Practice. I used to be able to do that stuff, and it was practice, practice, practice.
I bet.
My favorite thing was when I had a student, and this I'm dating myself like 25 years ago. I had a student, and I showed him how to do. If a guy punches you, you parry the arm, and you do what's called an arm bar. Okay,
Mm,
so and then you bring the person down, you pin them to the ground, and then you get your handcuffs out or call for help or whatever.
right.
Okay, so we were doing security in Green Bay at a bar one night, and we came out at the end of the night, and some guy was verbally assaulting a female and getting in her face, and he says, "Hey, dude, back off," and it's that. And all of a sudden, the guy turns around and throws a punch at him. And keep in mind, I just taught this guy how to do this move like 2 days prior.
Yeah.
He parries the arm, does the arm bar, and his arm tricep is right at chest level. His feet are at head level as he's going down to the ground. I'm across the street watching this. And I'm like,
And you're like,
then I
yeah.
talked to the guy next to me. I'm like, dude, yeah, I taught him how to do that, That's freaking
That's
awesome.
That is awesome. I tell you what, I do not want to be in a bar where you're the bouncer and do something stupid. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's pretty fun. That's awesome. All right, man. I think it's about time. It's about 9:00. Oh, it's after 9:00. So let's call it.
6 after right now.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That was a good show. Fun. You never know where the questions are going to take you, right? I figured we talk some DI stuff since that's what you do. But I think the point at the end there is important, right? It's like, it's important, but like the pressure point thing doesn't work without proper technique. None of it works without the other.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, if you can bet great and it's still random, then you're still betting great. And if you can make the dice help you a tiny bit, then even better, right? And that's the whole point. And like I said, it's a, as a martial arts person, the focus that you're putting into it, I think it just helps, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
All about the brain, dude. All right. Thanks for being here, Joe. Everybody else, thanks for hanging out. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, y'all. And I'll be back Monday morning. We'll have a new series of shows next week. There it is. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless y'all. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.